Hello, everyone, and welcome to PAXP Gamers. This, of course, is a podcast about video games and the business behind it.
Bing.
Bing. I'm your host, Roman Tolstik, co-host, and my other co-host is Victor Hernandez.
Hello.
Say what up.
What up? What up, Doug?
What up? I like it when you do what I say.
Shh, don't tell everybody.
Okay, so before we even jump into it, first of all, I guess we have a pretty packed episode today, right? One, we want to cover some things going on in the news. Two, we want to cover Battle Royale games and why they're so freaking addictive and why people love them.
Yeah.
And then after that, we want to talk about some rumors going on in the Microsoft mill.
Oh, of course. Fucking Microsoft ruining the
But
world.
first, a word from our sponsors.
A word
Just
from our
kidding.
sponsors. This is unofficially
We don't have
sponsored by Microsoft. No, it's fine.
This show is a special Microsoft-only podcast.
Yeah.
Where we talk about Forza and nothing else. Damn it, I couldn't go one episode.
Oh my god! I was gonna see. I
Forza.
wasn't even gonna egg you on, and I was just gonna
Damn
say. I was
it.
like, I'm gonna give Roman 5 minutes. No, couldn't even barely make it.
You know what's funny? Nick, he was listening to this, right? He was listening to our podcast, and one thing he mentioned was like how this podcast should be a drinking game. Every time I mention Forza, you take a drink.
Oh, dude, you'd be drunk by 10 minutes in.
Especially the last episode where just like Forza. It's 3 shots right there.
Oh my god.
Okay, anyway, so before we jump into our main topics, there are some newsworthy events that I would like to cover.
Sure.
First of all, Anthem has been delayed.
Oh yeah. What?
Which shouldn't surprise anybody, right? Because, I mean, who didn't see that coming?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not surprised. Especially it's EA, and I'm not surprised.
Dude, a blind mouse in Bulgaria probably would have seen this one coming.
Do you think they're trying to get ahead of something internally that they learned from through Battlefront, and they're like, oh,
And Destiny.
and Destiny, and they're like,
Yes,
oh, this is
absolutely.
our product is kind of similar to these products, and it wasn't well received. Let's change what ours is because it's too much alike. Do you think it's something like that, or what's the rumor of the delay anyway? Is there a rumor at all? Or
I don't know if there's much of a rumor, but here's what I'm thinking. So you remember way back, like, if you back up, like say 10 years ago or less than that even, BioWare was this amazing studio, and it still is. I mean, it's still an amazing studio, but it was like the what do they call it, like the jewel or whatever of the industry, right? Where they had a hit after hit, right? Whether it was Dragon Age or it was Mass Effect, but they were coming out with some of the best games out, and then they made this game called Mass Effect Andromeda.
oh god.
Which, man, I love Mass Effect. I love Mass Effect. I did not love Andromeda. In fact, I didn't finish Andromeda because there was a game-killing bug at the end where I couldn't find them. I got the very end, right, where I had to fight the main boss.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do any damage to
It
him.
glitched out on you. That's funny.
Yeah, it glitched out to where I couldn't do anything. There's like it kept telling me to run to this area. I'd run into this area, and I'd kill all the bad guys, and then nothing would happen. I would just be stuck, and that was it.
Maybe it's user error. Maybe there's something you're missing. I wouldn't be surprised.
Maybe. I mean, I did reload the game save file like 3 or 4 times trying to do this, and then after that, I was just like, okay, fuck it, I'm done. But to be fair too, I felt like it was a game I wanted to be done with for a while. Like, right, maybe after like the first 25%, I think I've had enough of it. It wasn't.
Really?
It wasn't that interesting. Yeah, it didn't draw you in like the previous.
Which
Mass
is
Effect
weird.
games did.
I mean, I never played. I played very little, like maybe an hour or two of Mass Effect 2, I think. And
Which was amazing.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I couldn't get into it. I think I just played it too late in the game. But and then this latest one wasn't well received, like almost immediately. And the price of it seemed to drop dramatically, like very soon. I mean, I think you could buy it now for like $15. And before it came out, I was kind of eager to try. I was like, I really want to get on this Mass Effect hype train that everybody talks about. But immediately I could tell that it wasn't worth investing in. But I'm surprised that it's how you described how you thought you were done with it after 25%, because I thought it was this big, well, not this big, but this kind of this grand planetary exploration type of game where you go from planet to planet in these kind
You
of
do.
smaller hubs, and you explore and you meet new civilizations and new alien life and defend this and that and whatever. And I just thought it was a cool concept, but for some reason it doesn't seem like it was done very well. Or I mean, what was it about it that just made you feel like you were done with it at that point?
It felt like it was a dead world. And so, like, for instance, if you're playing Skyrim, right, and you walk into a village, everybody's kind of doing something, right? Like the NPCs are maybe they're building armor, they're at a bar hanging out, they're walking around, maybe some dudes are hunting, whatever, right? But there's life. In Mass Effect Andromeda, there was none of that. Every NPC you see, they stand in one spot, and they kind of like pretend to be talking to other NPCs, and that was it. So it felt like a dead world, and because of that, it didn't really feel like there's any reason to explore it. It was very similar in that sense to No Man's Sky, which is another one where it just feels like a dead world. It doesn't feel like anything really happens in any of those worlds.
Yeah, I totally felt that in No Man's Sky, like almost immediately. And for like I only played No Man's Sky for maybe like 2 or 3 hours, but the whole experience was just like, ugh, like what the heck.
Yeah, I probably put in at least 20 hours into No Man's Sky.
Damn, really?
It was the same thing again and again and again. You go into a new planet, and it has like a different graphical aesthetic to it, but nothing really changes. It's just the same planet, just looks different. I don't know. There was no sense of exploration. There's maybe like a base that you go into, and you could get some gear or whatever, or talk to the NPC there, and then that was about it. And you mine some resources, and you go to the next planet, and then you rinse and repeat. And Mass Effect kind of felt the same way. Like it wasn't like as bad, I think, as No Man's Sky in that sense, but it didn't really feel like it offered anything in terms of like giving you a reason to push forward and explore. But anyway,
well, that's saying a lot, considering what you just said. BioWare is who developed Mass Effect, and it was kind of a failure.
Yeah, and so this is why I think Anthem has been delayed, because BioWare went from this one of the best studios in the world.
Oh, are they making Anthem?
Yeah, they're making Anthem.
I think I said EA.
So,
I think I said EA.
EA's publishing.
Oh, that's
EA's
right.
publishing.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Because EA owns BioWare.
Yeah.
And so, I think this has to be a hit for them, no matter what. Right? This has to be a hit because, at this point, I bet you with how much Anthem is gonna cost, it's like make it or break it at this point, right? Where if this is another dud, like Andromeda was, I don't know if their studio is going to survive.
Or Battlefront. Well, I know Battlefront isn't related to BioWare, but
it's DICE, right?
It's still under the same umbrella of EA, essentially.
And of course, because Battlefront had all those issues, microtransactions, and the single player wasn't really there.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, it was, they had a single player, but it wasn't one that anybody cared about. Like they trumped it up to be much bigger than it really was. Because before it came out, they were talking about how Battlefront 2 is going to have the single player where you get to play as the opposing team, like the bad guys, right? The Empire, and you get to see it from the perspective of the Empire. But it didn't really accumulate into anything more than just a typical like little story, whatever that's kind of chopped together and blah blah. So
do you think that EA? Well, first of all, do you think EA resisted to maybe delaying Anthem? Because I feel like EA is always putting the pressure on to get a game out there as soon as possible, right? Because they want the money, and they've done that before, to where they just put a broken game out there, or a game that just wasn't well developed and rushed. Do you think that delay was they were happy to do it? Where do you think the delay came from, BioWare or from EA?
I bet you it came from both. So I know EA has this bad rep, right? And at one point it was voted as the worst company in the world. Like, no joke, right? It was voted as the worst company in the world. But I think that EA is actually very sensitive to gamers. And I bet you it's because gamers make up a lot of that company, right? Those people that are running EA, they probably play games themselves.
Yeah.
And I know from personal experience that they are sensitive to gamers, because I once had an issue with Battlefield. and they went above and beyond to help me. Like, no joke, above and beyond. It was pretty incredible, and so I know that is sensitive to gamers' needs, and I think that EA is as bad as reputation they have. I bet you that they want to create the best product possible, not only because the best product possible will give them the best returns possible on their investment, but also because they probably want to play the best version of the game as well. And with Destiny 2 having such a, I don't know, soft launch in terms of features, right? I mean, sold well, but it had a soft launch in terms of features because a lot of what was in Destiny 1 was excluded from Destiny 2, and they're bringing it back in slowly, piece by piece. They're looking at that, and they're seeing how the video game media has kind of turned against Destiny, right? Even Fireteam Chat at IGN has just been like week after week breaking apart Destiny and talking about how it went wrong with Destiny 2. I think that EA is listening, and they're seeing these issues, and they want to make sure that Anthem is going to be this huge game that's going to be amazing.
Well, and they kind of have to, because aren't they relying on Anthem to be like this 10-year project? Or it's going to be like one of those.
They said it themselves.
It's going to be one of their games of service that they want you to continue playing. So they have to, I'm sure they're investing a lot, but they're probably putting all their chips on that one number to hopefully give them a boost in the things that they failed in the past recently.
Yeah, and so speaking of EA, the next thing I wanted to bring up was that Battlefront 2 will bring back microtransactions.
Oh yeah, I never doubted that.
The official quote is, "Will return within the next few months."
What were the microtransactions that? Because I never really paid attention to them. So what was it that they were offering in the micro? Is it just loot, like cosmetic loot, or
I don't know.
Was it game enhancements?
To be honest, I don't know. I haven't played Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
It looks really pretty, and I think I'm just a little Star Wars down.
It looks pretty, but the gameplay looks boring as hell.
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay looks just like Part 1.
Well, yeah, but there was never a campaign in Part 1.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about in terms of the campaign and just the progression of fighting your way through the level. It just seems very boring. Like, it's just, it looks just, it's like waves of enemies that you just have to fight through. I mean, there doesn't really look like there's any real objective or something. I don't know. But it is a nice game.
I can't speak much to that.
Yeah.
It looks super pretty. The graphics look amazing, right? The graphics look so good.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of other delays, Red Dead Redemption 2 got a delay from spring to fall.
October,
which
right?
that is a big delay. I mean, that's basically half a year probably, right? And I'm curious as to why that is, because I mean, it's Rockstar, man. They usually have their stuff, stuff in all. They usually have all their stuff together. So I wonder what that's all about.
Dude, Rockstar, they're one of those companies that they're like Valve, right? Where they have enough money to delay a game for 10 years and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Right?
They can pretty much do whatever they want to do, and nobody will be upset with them.
Yeah. I mean, they're a company that can't do any wrong. They make one game like every 10 years and they're totally fine because like one game sells like 1 billion copies.
Yeah. It's so weird how successful Rockstar has been with their game models before.
Yeah.
When it's not necessarily something innovative, like GTA. I mean, yeah, it might have been innovative in its time, like the first
back when Part 3 came out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's been
PlayStation 2.
That's been 10, 15 years. Like, they've repeated their game model throughout the years and have still been wildly successful. But
yeah,
I guess people just like going on rampages.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, I mean, I play a game and you play a game to get away from the real world, but there's a lot of people out there that want to be part of that real world and just do crazy freaking crap in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? They want to bring the imagination into the. I guess they want to bring the outlandish stuff into the real world, whereas we want to escape the real world and go to an outlandish world or something like that.
Yeah. So the final piece of news, Victor, is also from EA. Right, EA had a big week, and it's because EA had their shareholders conference call or whatever, and so there's all this news that came out of it. But EA has a very big title that hasn't been like really announced before this week, and nothing's been shown of it. but it's scheduled to come out holidays 2018. Can you guess what that game is? And it's I'll give you a clue. I'll give you a clue right now.
Mm-hmm.
It is a game that I know you and I both will look forward to immensely.
Dang. So, a game that I'm
It's
stumped.
it's part of a franchise.
Uh-huh.
Has
Has it always been under the EA umbrella, or?
Not always, but for a long time. Oh, actually, no. Maybe always.
Yeah.
But it's a multiplayer heavy game that you and I both love so dearly. Battlefield it is. 2018. New Battlefield coming out this year.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
awesome
I'm
is that?
excited, dude. I hope we hear something at the E3
For
or
sure.
just at
For
some
sure.
point.
They have to, right? Because it's coming out this year,
my
and they haven't showed
gosh.
anything yet, so it has to be this E3.
When is
But
E3?
here's what I want to know your opinion on.
Uh-huh.
Considering that Battlefield 1 was World War 1, and the Battlefield prior was modern, the Battlefield before that was modern, the two Battlefields before that were modern, and the Battlefield 2 that came out before that was modern warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Before that was obviously World War 2. What do you think this one's going to look like? Where do you think it's going to be set?
I hope it's modern. I hope there's no futuristic aspect to it, and I just hope it's modern. And I hope it's like I miss and I love and miss dearly Battlefield 3 and 4.
Yeah,
I miss them dearly. I miss playing them, and
especially 3. I
yeah,
really love
I
3.
just want something with that same level of awe and they were just great games, well-designed maps, very fun and engaging. I mean, this is coming from my own personal perspective, obviously. A lot of people don't like Battlefield, just like a lot of people don't like Call of Duty, but for those who do enjoy Battlefield, I'm sure they miss the same thing, just that modern combat. And it wouldn't necessarily have to be anything outlandish, but hopefully new sceneries, new environments, different kinds of terrain. I mean, their terrain are already kind of, well, no, I mean, it was kind of, most of their maps were like rough, mountainous terrain, I would think. So, I don't know, maybe change it up. Maybe like jungles or the Amazon, the Amazon jungle or just something. Sorry if I just kind of went on, but what else were you saying?
No, so I halfway agree with you. I think that they are going to bring in a new environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so Battlefield 1, right, this last one, came out World War 1, so it was like Europe-based.
Yeah.
Right? Then Call of Duty came out, right, which was World War 2. So for them to make a World War 2 game, I'm guessing they probably won't want to do that just because they want to stay away from that time era.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they want to. I would bet that they'd want to make something that is new in terms of visuals, at least, right? And if they want to make something jungle based, I bet you that they would go for Vietnam, Battlefield Vietnam, where they can have that kind of a jungle. Not really a jungle, right? But it's still something different.
Yeah.
You could still have all the Battlefield mechanics, including a helicopter, right? It's modern-ish. It's not completely modern, but it's close enough to where you can have all these different attachments for the guns and whatever and upgrades.
Yeah.
But it'll still be different enough from Call of Duty and the last Battlefield.
So basically, Forrest Gump when he goes to Vietnam.
Either that or Battlefield Vietnam, because Battlefield did go make a Vietnam game.
Yeah. Just yeah. One thing I did realize though, and maybe this will improve over these newer systems, is the amount of polygons that they could process, because to fight in a jungle requires a lot of trees to fulfill that kind of environment, and it's really going to push the system. So I would be eager to see what kind of environments they're going to provide, what era it's going to be. I think Vietnam would be a good era, actually, like you say, the Vietnam War, and what new mechanics would they add, if any? I mean, Battlefield already had tons of mechanics, like real-time destruction, and I mean, just the bullet physics, and I mean, just everything in general. The team playing aspect of it, I think it was all well done. So it's hard for me to envision what they can improve upon. It's really only the aesthetic look of it, I think, at this point.
You know what I think they're going to improve upon? So assuming they go with this Vietnam era style, one big weapon of Vietnam was the flamethrower. and I think that if they go with this Vietnam thing, they will introduce a flamethrower in a new way where it will, the fire that you cause will be used in not just to like shoot the flame, but it'll catch things on fire.
So you can
move
burn.
along the way.
So like throughout the course of a battle, you can burn the trees down to expose the landscape to even have a more open, like a more open combat. So like in the beginning of the map, it's kind of like a little bit more covert. You have more cover, but as trees burn and the foliage kind of gets burned away, it becomes a different kind of battle, more open, more intense, and just more chaotic in a sense.
Yeah.
That sounds totally fun.
I think fire will be a big push for this battle.
You know what though? Anytime a game has incorporated a flamethrower, I've hated it to shit.
Yeah, it's like because it's overpowered. Right?
It's overpowered, and for some
powerful.
reason, I can never learn how to use it. Like everybody knows how to use it against me, but when I go to use it, it's like you press the trigger and it takes 5 seconds for the flame to come out, and then I'm dead.
So speaking of big multiplayer games, Battle Royale.
Yeah, so
which is so freaking huge,
dude. Like, well, and there's really only 2 main popular ones. It's right. It's Fortnite and PUBG. I think PUBG is a bit more popular, but it seems this genre of gaming seems to have just kind of come out of nowhere. Essentially, I mean, a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't even around a year ago. Maybe that's when it started, but it just seems like this game mode has really gained popularity among people, and it's like console players are waiting to, PUBG has moved to Xbox. That's been, I think, for the most part, well received, and PlayStation is trying to jump on board and rumors are that PlayStation would like to have PUBG on its console, and there are rumors that they.
Oh, I bet you they would love to have PUBG on their console. That PUBG is selling like crazy.
And then Fortnite. I mean, that game's both on both consoles, and I think it's on PC as well. Maybe not, but that game. I mean, and that one's free, so that one's I'm sure that has a little bit to do with its popularity. But it's one that I've actually been playing recently quite a bit. I try not to because there's other games I want to get into that I'm kind of playing as well. But it's like, man, I just really enjoy this battle royale game mode, and you can kind of play it to your own liking, but there is a certain level of style that you need to have to enjoy the game. Like, I really enjoy it, and you've played it with me a couple times, but I sense that you don't enjoy it as much. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, you're totally correct. I think the first couple of games we played, I really liked. I was like, wow, this is so intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a few games, I was immediately off put, and it's just because I feel like I've spent more time in the damn menus trying to get into a new match because I die so fast and there's no respawn.
Yeah.
That you spend so much time in just waiting to get into a game rather than actually playing it.
Yeah, I have to agree that is the one caveat to that game is if you die immediately, then you're back in the loading menu and you're waiting another couple minutes for a match, and then you're waiting another time to parachute out, and then who knows, as soon as you land you might die immediately again. And I think that's one reason that I like the game, because you can either go all in and parachute into a heavily populated area and just start battling immediately, or you can kind of parachute out and float out to the ends of the map or somewhere kind of a little bit more secluded, or where you think that nobody else is dropping, and then you can kind of play a slower paced game. And I feel like I kind of do both. I'm 50-50. Sometimes I just want to go head in, sometimes I want to take it a little easier. And I think that's what attracts me. And the thing I like about it even more is the solo mode. Like, I feel like I enjoy that game more when I'm playing solo than I am with a team. Now, one, that could be because I don't have any friends in my life, and nobody wants to play it with me. And the people that I do play with, they aren't very good, so we all die pretty quickly. So then that makes it.
By we, do you mean just me and you?
Well, no, there's I have 3 other friends that I play it on PlayStation, but they all fucking suck. I hope they don't hear this episode, but I suck too. I'm not very good as well, but I get in my modes where I'm just like, so it's a game that I can play solo, duo, or team, all the same, and still enjoy it to an extent that it makes me want to come back. And
Do you think that this is a mode or a game type that will survive the test of time? Like, whether they'll keep making this type of game?
I think it'll have a peak, and I think it will drop, but I think it'll be a game mode that will kind of stick around. I think other games will try to implement that style, and I feel like PUBG will be around for a while. And because, especially if it's going to come out to PlayStation, because it's coming out, it was on PC and it got tremendous users and gamers on it. I mean, it hit like 3 million or something like that. Xbox, same thing, very, very popular among that console. And then if it were to come to PlayStation, it's going to have that same peak, I think. And actually, if it does come to PlayStation, I intend to buy it when it does. Because I really want to play PUBG. Because I like Fortnite so much, I know that I would enjoy PUBG more because it's more aesthetically pleasing to me. It's more realistic.
Yeah.
It's not cartoony like Fortnite is. So I know I would enjoy PUBG more. So once it comes to PlayStation, I absolutely will buy it because it'll most likely be $30 like it is now on Xbox, and so yeah, I'm waiting for it. I can't say that it's a game that I'm gonna love like Battlefield. No, absolutely not. But it is a game that I think will be around for a long time, and who knows how it will grow or evolve. I mean, Battle Royale, that's really just one game mode, right? It's like Deathmatch.
Yeah.
Deathmatch is only one mode. You fight another team. Battle Royale is the same thing. It's only one mode. It's you or a team versus hundreds of other people. And I think that's also what appeals to me about it. It's like when I'm playing solo and I drop out of that parachute and I land in an area and I stock up on weapons really quick and get some juice in me to raise my shield, and then I'm just stalking enemies, and that's what I like, because there's this aspect of it that you commonly refer to it as a walking simulator, where you can go several minutes, maybe a large portion of the game without even encountering an enemy.
Yeah.
It's the anticipation that I feel, between enemy encounters when I'm just cresting over that hill or going up the hill or leaving one building to cross the street into another. It's that anticipation of running into an enemy and then getting in that firefight that I just love. And it doesn't care if I don't see anybody for the whole match and I come across one person like 5 minutes later and then I lose by chance because I just he got the jump on me, and then I'm back in the lobby waiting to read.
It's because he got the jump on you.
But it's that anticipation that like gets my adrenaline pumping a little bit. Like have you just ever had a game where your hands are so sweaty, your heart is racing, and you climax to whatever it is, and then you either lose or defeat, and then you kind of settle down, but your heart is still racing. You still get that.
Oh my god!
Do
you know what you just described for me?
Forza?
Like every single race I played in Forza. I'm not even kidding. It is the most intense game I've ever played.
Oh man! Oh, I bet. I mean, man, when I played Midnight Club, totally different style of racing game. But yeah, when I played racing games back in the day, I would get that same adrenaline. But there's not very many games now that do that for me, and Fortnite is one of them. And I know when PUBG comes to PlayStation and I'll play it, I know it'll kind of have that same effect.
So I wonder, I know, like, man, if we look back to, say, Nintendo 64, right, or even before that, it was all about the trend in general, and not just games, but movies and stories in general were about the lone hero, right, where you are the captain of your own destiny, right? You make the change for the world.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what like the Oblivions and the Skyrims and the Witchers kind of grew out of. And as time went on, the focus, the zeitgeist, if you will, of the U.S., who sets the tempo for the rest of the world, has changed to team based, right? And that's where the Battlefields and the Call of Duties and the Left 4 Deads came out of. Mm-hmm. And so there's this cycle that kind of happens, right? As the single players games kind of die out, and the single players games, I mean like the games where you could be the hero, die out. The multiplayer games kind of kick in, right? But what's unique about PUBG or Fortnite is that it's a single player game based in a multiplayer world. And it's coming back. So that cycle is starting to recycle itself. It's starting to make its cyclical turn back against towards midnight, right? Where you are now still the single player game in a multiplayer setting, where it's really just a game about how good you can do versus how good your team can do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's making like its own little comeback. And I wonder if we're going to see more games like that or more game styles in the big franchises like Battlefield or Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Well, and there's a rumor. It's funny you brought up Battlefield 5 being announced and possibly coming out at the end of this year, because there's a rumor that EA is looking at this game model of Battle Royale and are seriously considering implementing it in the next Battlefield. And they might have a mode just like that. And I think it would...
Dude, it would work so good.
I think it would be amazing.
So good in Battlefield.
I think it would be amazing. Now, I think it would be on a smaller scale. I mean, Fortnite, I think it's 100 people in a map. PUBG, I think it's 120 or 30 or something like that in a map. I think if they did do that, great. But I think it would be smaller scale. Maybe 50 people in a map or something like that. Because obviously... or I don't know. Maybe they'll have the server power to do larger groups of people.
Yeah, I mean, Battlefield's been doing 64 players for God knows how, like since Battlefield 2, right?
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I think they.
So who knows?
Well, the reason I think it would be smaller based is because I think they would want to stick to their map size. I mean, their maps are huge, right? But they're not huge in terms of Fortnite or PUBG. But they still have large maps, so I think they want to. I think they'd want to keep the consistency of the size of their maps, and because of that, they would have to lower the amount of people. And if you think about it, also, I think Battlefield 5 would have a higher graphic quality than the PUBG and the Fortnite that we know right now. So to process all that power and to have all those people on there, it'd take a lot of shit.
Yeah. So backing up to the question of if this is a game type that will survive the ages, what I think is going to happen is I bet that Battlefield and other games will adopt this type of game style into their games, right? And instead of just being a game, it'll be a game mode, right? Like you mentioned, like Deathmatch was or whatever back when this first came out. And it'll just be a game mode that lives within it. As that happens, PUBG or Fortnite will expand their game modes to have capture the flag and to have team deathmatch and territories or whatever, right? And they'll become more standardized shooter games, and all of them will just consider this a mode rather than a game itself.
So you think like the PUBG game, the Fortnite, they might adopt the traditional team deathmatch, capture the flag modes, while the current deathmatch, capture the flag games will adopt the battle royale mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that exactly will happen.
Yeah, because I mean, it is just it's a mode. That's what it is. It's like, what mode do you want to play? Free for all? Do you want to play deathmatch? Do you want to play capture the flag? Do you want to play battle royale, or do you want to play fucking co-op? So I can totally see it evolving into just a mode, and no longer just being a standalone game. Because even though I've been playing Fortnite a lot, I can kind of feel the effects of just doing the same thing, right? And they want to break that monotony up. They want to offer variety. So I can see that offering some kind of new gaming element to it.
Yeah, I mean, they have to keep people coming back, right? And if it's just the one thing that they're doing again and again and again and again, no matter how big and diverse that one map is, or many maps are, like if you're doing just the one thing, you're gonna get sick of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, speaking of amazing shooters, what if Half-Life made a comeback?
Half-Life, I'm sure it would be. I'm sure a lot of people would be eager to play it.
It's more possible now than ever, especially with the new rumors circulating about Microsoft possibly buying EA or Valve or both.
Oh God, Microsoft just wants to ruin everything.
Hey, wait. How is that for a segue? That's pretty good, right? Into our next topic.
I'm glad my topic set up your topic.
Yep. But so that's the current rumor. The current rumor is that Microsoft is thinking of buying EA or Valve or both,
Yeah.
right? And I was thinking, so let's say they could buy one of the two,
It's bad for
or
business.
maybe both. Like, what would they gain from each one, right? Like, for instance, in your mind, if they were to buy EA, what would they gain from EA?
Like, well, it's hard to
Actually,
say.
wait, before you continue, let's set up the atmosphere of the game industry for Microsoft. Right now, they are very light on first party titles.
Very
right. Because
light? Don't you mean extremely light?
I mean, because what do they have going on for 2018? They have announced they have Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. Well, first party or exclusives? What do you,
For exclusive, let's say exclusive.
Yeah,
exclusives.
right. Yeah,
Sea of Thieves, right? I mean, obviously it's gonna be some kind of Forza, right? Halo is probably gonna make a comeback because it's been like 3 years.
Yeah, there's rumors of that being announced.
Yeah, but nothing's announced beyond Sea of Thieves. That's it.
Yeah.
Microsoft in 2017 has been pretty light as well. So now they got to come up with something. They have to. So this EA or Valve merger with the Xbox, it seems pretty reasonable. And so if they were to buy EA, what would they get, Victor?
Well, I would first have to say it's more likely for them to buy Valve than it is EA. I feel like EA is just as big of a monster as Microsoft is in terms of gaming.
Not even close. Dude, in terms of gaming.
In terms of gaming,
yeah.
In terms of what they produce in gaming, I mean, when we talk
so
about
EA is the biggest third-party publisher.
yeah,
in the
that's
world.
so. I mean, if you cut out Microsoft and what they do on the computer side, they don't stand up to EA. EA is a much bigger monster, and I just don't think that they could undertake that in a cost-effective way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, so I looked up the market cap for both companies, and Microsoft could buy EA 10 times over easily.
No, there's no doubt.
Easily.
There's no doubt. Yeah, but and then you would have to ask. The second question would be what does EA gain from selling their studio that makes them tons of money already? Right? I mean, not only just on the games, but on the loot that they sell. Didn't you quote like a couple episodes back, like how much? The gaming industry is made off loot, and EA has a large part in that aspect. So I think it would be very not beneficial for EA to sell their studio when they're making, or not the studio, but their brand.
Well, here's why it might be beneficial, because like the way a company sale usually works is that a bigger company like Microsoft comes in, they offer them a check for billions of dollars, right? Let's say the CEO of EA accepts, right? He doesn't necessarily lose his job, and neither do the senior staff or a lot of the game designers. What happens is they become the Microsoft umbrella, and they still have like a layer of independence maybe where they can make their own stuff. But Microsoft now has title to all of their franchises, right? And their big games now at EA are Battlefield, right, which is a first-person shooter. So that probably wouldn't be a best case scenario for Microsoft, who already has a major first-person shooter called Halo. EA also has Battlefront, which is a first-person shooter, another competitor to Halo. EA also has Need for Speed, which is a racing game, which is a competitor to Forza. Microsoft already has 2 Forza games. So really, the only area of current EA games that they can really benefit from are obviously Anthem, Sims, and the 2 really big ones, especially in Europe, if they want to make a move in Europe, because Sony is killing them there, is Madden and FIFA. Madden less so, but FIFA is huge in Europe.
Yeah. I think the reason PlayStation kills them, though, is because not because they have more exclusives, but because they have single-player, story-driven narrative games. And that's what I feel is more popular among gamers. Yeah, you want to play online with your friends and all that. That's great. But all in all, if I were to pick or choose, I would pick single-player games over multiplayer games. And I think if Microsoft continues to focus on these these multiplayer experiences, they're still going to end up in the same boat that they're already in. They're not going to really advance their library of exclusive content. And by purchasing EA and then just having timed exclusives, let's say, on their FIFA titles and Need for Speed and all this other stuff, I just don't see it benefiting them. And really, maybe it could even backfire on them, because let's say they acquire EA and now they have all these titles at their disposal, and they can control exclusivity or not. How would making these games that have been around for so long, that have never been exclusive, turning them into exclusive or timed exclusives, how could that benefit them?
Well, here's the thing, though. The first thing I want to mention is Microsoft is a software company, right? It's not historically a hardware company.
Yeah.
Right? It's been about Windows. It's been about Microsoft Office. It's not so much been about Xbox until very recently in their history. And so hardware to them may not be as important as hardware to the gamers, right? Where the gamers are Xbox versus PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft may be thinking their mission statement could be to sell the most software and put it in the hands of as many users as possible. So they could be doing with EA, if they buy it, the same thing that they're doing with, say, like Minecraft, where Minecraft's available for everything. It's available for PlayStation. It's available for Nintendo. Mm-hmm. It's available for iPhone. So maybe if Microsoft's mission statement is to sell as much software as possible, and all of a sudden they have FIFA and Madden and Anthem and Battlefront and Battlefield coming out on both Xbox and PlayStation, it may not necessarily sell more Xboxes, but it will go towards their mission statement of getting as much of their software towards as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I mean, it's still revenue regardless, whether it's from hardware or software. It's still revenue.
So all of a sudden, Sony is less of a competitor and more of a partner, whether Sony likes it or not.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they have to play nice now, because if they bought EA, they like, oh shit, we better not piss off Xbox, otherwise they might hold their game back. But
and it might draw in cross-system play. Finally, it might force Sony to do cross-system play.
That could totally turn the tide.
Right, that could be the thing. Like Microsoft says, like, listen, if you want all of these titles that EA has, every single one of them, you have to offer. Because we know, like, everybody who's followed the game industry knows that Microsoft wants to do cross-system play, and the only barrier is Sony. And we know that it's possible because, you know what, freaking Epic has done it already.
Yeah.
And they had to cancel because Sony complained about it. So we know that it's possible. We know that everybody wants it except for Sony.
Yeah.
And that could be their way of forcing it into it.
Yeah. No, I can see that happening.
And the other games that could be coming back, if they do buy EA, Fight Night, which was an amazing boxing game, right? Mass Effect, which who knows what's happening there. Mirror's Edge, the last game wasn't so good. The first one was really good. Dragon Age, Dead Space, all these games could be coming back. And EA has the Star Wars license, and EA has the exclusive NFL license.
Yeah. Well, and the rumor that was kind of floating around last year and even into this year was that Microsoft has developed their hardware to set it up so that this year and going forward they can start developing their software line. So maybe this is and it's also been said that Microsoft is already trying to acquire studios, and they're starting with smaller studios that they can kind of acquire easily and just kind of put under the umbrella and kind of have them there, just I guess as as some padding for maybe a bigger jump.
Yeah, but I would agree with you though, Victor. In the end, I think Valve would be the smarter decision.
Yeah.
And here's why. One, Gabe Newell, the guy that owns Valve, right? The guy who started Valve, he used to be a Microsoft exec. Or Microsoft, I don't know if he's an exec, but he was a Microsoft employee, right? So he has that tie to the company. So it makes a little bit more sense there, where they can send somebody to approach him in a much friendlier way. And Valve, unlike a bunch of shooters and racing games that would compete directly with Halo or Forza, Valve has other types of games. They have Dota 2, which is like an esport game, right? And then they also have some games that are probably considered among the very best games ever made, like Portal, the Portal series, right? Like I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen a list of top 10 games ever made that didn't include Portal.
Yeah, Portal seems to be always on every list. Even that game is what 10 plus years old or something, and man, people still talk about it.
There's obviously Left 4 Dead, which is like the ultimate co-op experience with zombies. Who doesn't love that? But most importantly, if Microsoft was to buy Valve and Microsoft wants to sell consoles and it wants to sell games and wants to get its name out there even further and push its brand towards gamers, it will have the Half-Life brand, which I don't know if there's really like a more valuable brand in gaming than Half-Life. I know like no new Half-Life has come out in God knows how long, but every time a Half-Life game has been announced, everybody's gone crazy. Right? Can you? And this would be the first time where Half-Life could actually be a reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if they did acquire Valve, they would definitely look into bringing that one back, because Half-Life is. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of. I never played Half-Life, so I can't really.
Are you serious? Neither one?
None of them. So, but from what I understand, they were kind of innovators in the shooting genre, and maybe with a little bit of storytelling.
Yeah, back when the first Half-Life came out, so Half-Life 1 came out around the time of a real tournament, right? And GoldenEye, Doom, Quake, all these games that focused on shooting other people for the sake of shooting them. And that's kind of about it, right? That you went in and you shot people or monsters or whatever. Half-Life was all of a sudden it was this shooting game that was scripted like an action movie. You had purpose.
Oh, really?
And Half-Life was instantly amazing. Back when Gabe was first coming out with this Half-Life concept, he took it to a bunch of studios and nobody wanted to take him up on it because it seemed like too ambitious of a title. Like it just couldn't be done, they thought. And then he pushed it through anyway. He made it and it became this phenomenon. And so after many years later, Half-Life 2 came out, and again, it was this game that had like whereas Half-Life 1 was the game that set the standard for action shooter games. Half-Life 2 set the standard for action game shooter pacing. It had the perfect set of pacing where it would have these lows of story. And lows, I mean, like nothing action was happening. It had vehicular moments, right? And it had a lot of the shooting aspects, and the shooting felt so tight and perfect, and each level felt so unique. Everything was memorable.
Maybe they should just remaster that one and bring it back.
That would be amazing. But anyway, the other thing that they would get from buying Valve is, so if they got Dota 2, I think that it would make a lot of sense for Microsoft to push really heavily on the esports side of gaming. Right now, they don't really have much of a niche, right? Because they're competing directly with Sony, and they're doing a lot of the same, right? They both have they're both like similar consoles. They both have a few exclusives. They both have some really cool games on each end, but whatever.
Well,
right?
PlayStation has more than a few, but continue.
I mean, they both have more than a few, but. Neither console, like PlayStation right now, it distinguishes itself by being single player focused. Microsoft distinguishes itself by being multiplayer focused. But what if Microsoft started pushing not just multiplayer focused, but it started pushing the esports side even further? And if it got Dota 2, it's got Halo, right? It could get Counter-Strike with Valve, it can get Team Fortress with Valve, and really start pushing the esports. Using its mixer to push those through, it could all of a sudden become like the ESPN of gaming, right? Where you don't just go in to play games, you go in to watch games, right? You go and watch tournaments, and if it pushes that aspect in with gaming, it could build up a base of gaming superstars. Right, which kind of in the same way that football players are now, or soccer players are, or tennis players are, or whatever sports people are, right? That people just want to tune in to watch, and people could be buying Xboxes or watching it on their PCs just for the sake of seeing these Xbox superstars play these games.
Yeah. Yeah, esports has been seemed to be growing, not really at a super fast pace, but it does seem to be gaining quite a bit of traction.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, I mean, you got Overwatch, you got League, you got, I mean, what other kind of tournaments are there? Do they have like PUBG tournaments and just other
Halo, dude, Halo and Forza. Forza has tournaments where they give out cars to the winner, real cars.
in Halo?
No, Forza. Forza has tournaments where they give out real cars.
What if
to
they
the winner.
gave you the car that you won the race in? Oh man, that would be
crazy.
amazing.
But yeah, and Halo has tournaments,
Yeah.
its own tournaments where you win money or whatever.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the bigger things, not the biggest, but the bigger things, buying Valve. One, it would get the Steam network, which it could then roll its Game Pass into. Right, use Steam to buy games digitally, which gamers love universally. It could roll in the Game Pass into where gamers could, like quote unquote, I guess not quote unquote, but like kind of rent games, whether on Xbox or PC, and then they would fulfill their original goal when the Xbox One was first coming out of having an online always system, where they could then push its cloud power into finally. Because then everybody would be online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's very ambitious, and I think it'll take years to really implement. And I think a lot of it is gonna rely on what the next consoles look like and how they operate.
Yeah, but there's one final part. That's not it. With Valve, you know what else they would get?
What?
VR, because Valve co-created the Vive with HTC.
Yeah, I hear the Vive's not that great though.
Well, the Vive. Yeah,
I hear none of the VRs are.
Yeah, so none of them are picking up like they're supposed to, right? Because they're crazy expensive.
Yeah, they're like more
Vive,
expensive than a freaking console.
Yeah, but the Vive is considered the best of all the VR systems.
Oh, really?
It's considered better than Oculus, better than the PlayStation, better than the Samsung.
And is it compatible across all the platforms or just?
No, it's not compatible with any platforms. It's only compatible with the PC.
Oh, so then they might.
But
and you think they'll keep it that way?
No, I think that they will make it compatible with the Xbox. If they were to buy Valve, they would make it compatible with the Xbox, and all of a sudden the Xbox would have a better system than the PlayStation VR.
Oh, yeah.
But what about the price? That's the thing, because like the Vive right now costs like what, $500-$600.
I think it would go down in price.
It would have to.
One, because Microsoft has kind of had a history of losing money on their systems rather than making money, to the expense of bringing something to the gamers, and because I think it would be like who really ever talks about the Vive? Nobody really, right? I mean, it's either the PlayStation VR or the Oculus. Like when I hear the Vive, I hear that come in as number 3. So maybe this will catapult it ahead, which will increase the sales as well. They'll make up the profits on numbers rather than price, right? So maybe that'll give it a boost. And then because maybe currently the Xbox One X might be able to power it, more effectively.
Exactly.
Which would give it, because I think I think right now don't they offer a lower resolution than you can get on your TV?
The Vive?
No, the well, you probably wouldn't know, but the PlayStation VR.
Oh yeah, it's way lower.
Yeah, so like by implement
on all of those, Vive, Oculus, and PlayStation VR, the resolution is lower.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So now with a beefier system, it's able to power that Vive.
Wait, what do you mean I wouldn't know? What do you mean I would know? I know things. Damn it, I know stuff.
My bad.
Okay. Anyway, so let me ask you this: considering both of those, Valve and EA, do you still think that Valve is more likely of a buy?
I think it is, because I feel it might be cheaper for Xbox to acquire or Microsoft to acquire it.
Why do you think that?
And I think they have just as many hard-hitting titles that have been off the shelf for so long that if they brought them back, it would probably bring a lot of attention to them. Like you said, with the Half-Life or, any of the other games that have just kind of been there, gone and out of sight for a while.
Yeah. So EA is a publicly traded company. So we all know exactly what that company's worth, right? Because we know its stock value.
Mm-hmm.
Valve is not. Valve is private. So Valve's price, if somebody wanted to buy it, is whatever Gabe says it is.
Yeah.
And whatever he's willing to sell it for. But I'm with you there. I think Valve would be cheaper. Even though Steam is incredibly successful and they have a lot of games that are very, very popular, I think that EA would be more expensive to buy. And I think Valve would be more realistic for them to go after, one, because Valve is by a Microsoft person, right, ex-Microsoft person.
Mm-hmm.
And Valve could better fill holes that Xbox has. It could bring back some huge fan favorites. It could give them VR support, and they could integrate a better marketplace than they currently have.
Yeah, I totally think Valve would be the. With all that being said, I think Valve would be the bread and butter of the two.
Oh, dude, and Valve. Did you hear
And
about
EA
how
is
Valve,
just a publisher. They're not a developer.
I mean, they had EA Sports. They have EA Sports.
Who
right?
cares
Remember
about
those?
sports?
But Europe, all of Europe.
Oh man!
Have you seen how good FIFA sells in Europe? It's insane.
Oh yeah!
FIFA
Dude,
is like the number one game always.
FIFA is what now?
It's like the number one selling game all the time.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt it, dude.
FIFA is crazy over there.
I don't get it, man. They're just kicking a ball back and forth. What the heck?
Dude, I don't get it either. They could do that in real life, right? They could just go out.
And exercise. You might be just as fit if you did.
Yeah, jeez. Anyway, the other thing about Valve is they're making 3 new full-fledged games. Not like some little games, not like some short titles. Full-fledged AAA games, 3 of them, exclusively for VR.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you know why? You know why, though? So I've noticed a lot of VR games coming out for PlayStation recently.
And they'll probably suck.
They probably do. And these coming out by Valve will probably suck also. But I think what the...
Dude, Valve, no way. I bet you anything. The Valve games, if they make they probably won't make
Well, come on,
dude.
We can't say the PlayStation VR games suck. We haven't played them, so...
Dude, Valve has never made a game that sucks, ever. They've made... Every single game they've made has been the top 10 list of best games ever.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not doubting you, but VR is a whole different animal. I mean, there's limitations with that, so a good game can be so good on VR.
and we're ending the podcast right now.
But anyway, I think they're doing maybe they're doing this to beef up the price of Valve, right?
Well, wait. Back up. Who's doing that?
You said Valve is going to create 3 VR games, right?
Yep.
If this sale or if the rumor of this sale is going on, what better way to add value to the company before you sell it than to come out with 3 blockbuster hits in a new gaming format, VR? What is that going to do? That's going to raise the stock price, raise the value of your company, and maybe they're just trying to go all in before they sell out so that they can get the bang for their buck.
So then, thinking about this critically, knowing the atmosphere in the game environment, in the game market, do you think it's realistic that they would buy one or the other or both of the companies? Microsoft would buy one or the other or both of the companies.
Well, I don't think it's realistic for them to buy EA. I think that rumor is a little far-fetched. I think it is realistic that they would acquire Valve. Because of everything we just said, the titles that they have under their belt, the VR capability that they can bring to Microsoft, the lower cost it would to acquire them, and the fact that they're a developer, not just a publisher, just gives them more.
And Steam.
Yeah, and Steam,
right?
and the connection from PC to Microsoft. I mean, it would just bring it all together like a puzzle, and just fortify Microsoft and put their a third leg down in the ground of the gaming world. I think so. I think realistically, Valve would be the way to go. I think they should do it, and screw EA.
Yeah.
EA's, You know, EA is too big of a beast. They're gonna do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it. And
so, if let's say that it wasn't Valve or EA, let's say both of those just rumors that they're not gonna happen. If you had a dream company for Xbox to buy, what company do you think it would be?
oh man, I have no idea. You've obviously put a lot of thought into this. What company would you want it to be?
Well, you know what I think it would be really good for them? Square.
Square Enix?
Yeah.
Really?
So one, if they bought Square Enix, they would get JRPGs, Final Fantasy,
Oh, yeah.
which is huge,
yeah.
right? They would get action adventure.
And
games,
aren't most Final Fantasies either like? Don't they usually try to favor PlayStation, the Final Fantasy franchise?
They do. they have historically ever since like Final Fantasy like 7, right? After 6, they favored Nintendo, and then Sony came out, and they were able to use the discs, right? So they could put like voice acting and a lot more music and graphics into it. So they favored PlayStation ever since then. But they were able to get Final Fantasy. They were able to get a competitor for Uncharted, which is Tomb Raider.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be able to get a really cool action RPG called, I don't know if you've heard of this, a little game called Deus Ex. Maybe you heard of it? I mean, it's considered like best PC game of all time.
The game that you always tell, dude, you should play.
Dude, it's so good. The new ones are so good. I can't believe it doesn't sell that well, but people should play it. It's an amazing 2 games. Yeah. Right? Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided. Uh-huh. They would also get another.
Wait, they only have 2? I thought there was 3.
Well, so there was Deus Ex the original, which came out for PC.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Then there was Deus Ex Invisible War, which came out for PC and I think Xbox 360, which was okay.
Yeah.
And then came out Deus Ex Human Revolution, which was incredible, and Deus Ex Mankind Divided, which is also incredible. But they would also get Nier, which is not a game I'm interested in or what I would ever be interested in. Just like I wouldn't be interested in Final Fantasy. But it's Japanese based, like kind of action.
Are you talking about Mirror's Edge?
No, Nier. Nier. N-I-E-R.
Nier Automata.
Is that the full title?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Nier Automata something. You're talking about with the girl with like the super short miniskirt with the black thing over her eye.
No, I think it's a weird looking guy with like scars on his face.
Oh, maybe we're talking about 2 different games then.
Yeah. Definitely talking about 2 different games. So they would get that. But this is a big game this past year. They would get Just Cause, the series of Just Cause.
Yeah.
Right, but it's an action game that they don't have.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to Crackdown, which they haven't made in forever. I mean, they're making one now, but God knows how long it's gonna take. And they would get a stealth game. Right. Historically, for a long time, Splinter Cell has been a big part of Xbox.
Yeah.
But they haven't made a Splinter Cell in forever. Mm-hmm. So what's the next best thing?
Square Enix.
The Thief series.
The what?
They would get Thief.
Oh yeah, I feel like that one kind of died off, but maybe.
Yeah, the last one wasn't that great. The last one was not that great, but like Thief is still very fondly remembered, and it's been a very good franchise for the first 3 games. So they would get a lot of like these unique games that they don't have access to currently. Yeah. That they could add into their library and fill in the holes they don't have.
And again, Square Enix, another, studio that they can probably acquire very easily, obviously.
Yeah.
And it would benefit them.
Okay, it's Microsoft. Like, who couldn't they acquire very easily?
Yeah,
right?
That's true. They could probably acquire fucking Sony if they wanted to.
Actually, they probably could. Joking aside, they probably could if they wanted to.
Oh, man. Well.
But yeah, so that's kind of where we are now, right? Like, so we're... Hopefully Microsoft... I really do hope that Microsoft buys Valve. I think that'd be really good, and I'd love to see another Half-Life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm all for it. I'm a gamer, and I like to see... I even like to see exclusive content. I like that rivalry because it makes the exclusive content just that much better in my mind, right? Where there's competition, there's, bound to be a better product. So I'm totally down with Microsoft moving forward with these rumors of buying studios, big or small, adding substance to their collection and bringing something that can rival against PlayStation, because then that's only going to make the gaming world just that much better. And with that, they're going to offer, something better to either the game or implement something better to the hardware, like you say, acquiring a VR headset and just just putting something into that makes it actually to where people want to buy, because obviously VR isn't flying off the shelves, but it's there enough to I think do something with.
Yeah. And on that note, I want to thank you guys for joining in. Please follow us on either Twitter or Instagram or both. We're coming up with a new website that's going to be amazing. Probably the best website ever made.
Yep. When it's up, it should
Most
be
likely.
PAXPgamers.com.
The whole website will basically be just one big donate button. So you can just click. No.
That's messed up.
Oh god, I'm just kidding. But we'll have news on there. We'll have a link to our episodes. We'll have the PAXP voice and a little contact.
Any
area
affiliates
for
that want to
us.
contact us, that want to be a part of it, want to maybe promote their brand or their product, we will also have a page for that eventually in time. So feel free to contact us. Sponsorships, anything that might come up that's worth putting on the website, I'm sure you'll see in time. But until then, we'll keep you guessing.
Yeah, and if you guys have anything you guys want us to discuss, anything you want to delve into, if you want us to do the research for you, let us know.
Yeah.
Like shoot us an email, whatever, and we'll be happy to kind of dive into that subject and figure it out for you. And you can just listen to it.
If you want us to break out our magnifying glass and do some detective work on, a game studio or a game or software that might be coming out or rumors, or if you just have questions for us, what we do, what we play, how long we've been playing, anything, feel free to email us at paxpgamers@outlook.com, or you can even just leave a message under our playlist in our SoundCloud or any other podcast app that you're listening to us through.
Yep. For now, I'm gonna break out a nice glass of bourbon.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. Anyway, on that note.
Yeah.
Good night.
On that note,
Goodbye.
see you guys. Thanks. And gals.